Engineering began the moment man started to shape tools. The wheel of time has spun over centuries, and engineering has come a long way today and has extended our abilities to change the world, to cut, shape, and put together materials, to move things, to reach further with our hands, voices, and senses. Technology is here to stay as long as we will. It is imperative to learn today's technology to make our tomorrow. RMK College of Engineering and Technology. Engineering and you. RMK CET is an engineering institution that strives for the synergy of human life and technology to make the world a better place. Dedicated to the nation by the prestigious RMK Group, one of the premier educational trusts in India, RMK CET was created with a vision to provide a solid foundation to the young minds and nurture them to create a difference to the world with a scientific fervor and spirit. RMK College of Engineering and Technology is backed by a rare strength of intellectual capital, brought forth by all its own group institutions. Based on the experience of these institutions and its own innate vision, RMK CET College is all set to carve a niche for itself in the Indian technical education world. The institution started its journey in 2008. The college is approved by the All India Council for Technical Education AICTE, New Delhi, and is affiliated to Anna University, Chennai.
RMK CET ranked 10th in the Anna University results, November-December 2018.
RMK CET achieved second rank amongst 270 engineering colleges in the state in its very first year, first semester, 2008-9. 156 university ranks have been bagged till now. 93.45% in Anna University first year, first semester results 2017-18. In first semester examination, ECE and EEE branches were adjudged number 1 in their respective disciplines in the entire state 2008-9. Consistently with very top ranks in Anna University right from the very first year. 91.29% of graduates received degree in 2014 to 2018 batch. 84% students certified BEC Vantage level. 10% of students pursuing higher education. Rupees 22 lakhs cash awards towards excellence in academics, extra and co-curricular activities. Presently, we have also earned the enviable overall 9th position among the 560 plus colleges affiliated to Anna University in 2015-16. 89th rank in India's top 150 engineering colleges in 2019 by Outlook magazine. Ranked number 1 among the top 20 engineering colleges in India with excellent industry exposure by Higher Education Review magazine 2017. RMK CET has been awarded the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan National Award for an engineering college having best overall performance 2015. 97th rank in Outlook Drishti ranking for best professional colleges 2018. RMK CET has been placed under Platinum category in the AICTE CII survey 2015, 16 and 18.
RMK CET is recognized as one among the top 20 most promising educational institutes in Tamil Nadu by the Higher Education Review magazine. Best Institutional Food Service Management Award received from Food Safety and Drug Administration Department, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of Tamil Nadu. The college has been certified with ISO 9001-2008 by the TUV Nord for the standards set forth in delivery of undergraduate programs and later went for an upgradation to ISO 9001-2015. The college has established Center of Excellence for in-depth training in niche areas to bridge the gap between industry requirements and curriculum. The courses presently offered at the institution include modern classrooms equipped with all the latest training material, modern practical training and research laboratories, along with a well-equipped library are available for the students. Interpersonal and leadership skills, team spirit and a scientific temper are all values that are imbibed by the students, and they are sure to become engineering and technology professionals, thought leaders, researchers who would work towards making a difference to their world. Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. The Electrical and Electronics Engineering branch offers subjects relevant to current industrial needs like power electronics, electrical machines DC and AC, control and instrumentation engineering, etc. The department also has engineering design and analytical tools such as MATLAB with Simulink and necessary toolboxes, AU Power Lab, Power System Simulation Lab, etc. Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering. The department offers various subjects relating to electronics and communication engineering and promotes R&D activities in related areas, collaborating with industries wherever possible. The department has a separate computing center with 45 nodes.
is well known for his philanthropic attitude and service-oriented hard work. The college has secured the ISCE Bharat Vidya Bhavan National Award for the engineering college having best overall performance for the year 2015 and holds platinum category in the ASCE survey. 161 university ranks have been bagged since inception, one gold medal and one second rank. RMK CET is one of the colleges in the top 10 ranking in academic excellence and retains the glory year after year, and also one of the top 5 colleges in the state with average placement record of 80% consistently. 28 MOUs have been signed with industries, universities abroad and other institutions for academic and collaborative research, and 10 centers of excellence function efficiently to make students company ready.
Thank you, sir. Our principal, Dr. T. Rangaraja, will now give the inaugural address and declare the program open. Please, sir.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Principal, sir, you have to unmute your mic.
Very good morning to one and all present in the session, and it is my pleasant privilege to deliver my introduction speech about this faculty development program. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, said by Mr. Nelson Mandela. Teachers are the backbone of any country, the pillars upon which all aspirations are converted into reality, says Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Over the past few weeks, teachers' roles have been unexpectedly and dramatically changed by COVID-19 crisis. The unprecedented nature of the situation means there is no set direction for them to follow. Despite these pandemic circumstances, we have seen inspiring academicians acting to ensure the safety and well-being of families and minimizing the restrictions faced by out-of-college students. They are giving support to teachers, students, and parents to be enthusiastic in implementing online learning. I am remembering them to take. I am reminding them to take care of their health by frequently washing their hands with the soap, wearing masks if they leave the house, avoiding crowd during pandemic. When the college eventually opened, we expect that teachers will face a high burden in quickly creating safe and healthy learning space for their students. They may face many more challenges like students who may have suffered from anxiety, depression, isolation, etc. Learning loss among the students, scheduling and other logistical changes, and so on. Keeping all these in mind, RMK College of Engineering and Technology decided to conduct a faculty development program which address some of these issues and their solution. This program is specially designed for you all, enable each and every one of you to explore new technologies and methodologies of teaching during and after this pandemic situation. We have carefully chosen the resource persons who are expected in the area, who are experts in the area of their sessions. Hope they will enlighten you with their knowledge and experience. I express my sincere thanks to all the experts of this faculty development program for accepting our invitation to be the resource person of this FDP. My special thanks to Dr. Edamanna Prasad, Professor and Head Teaching Learning Center, IIT Madras, and who is going to be the session today. It's my duty to thank our management, especially our beloved and philanthropic chairman, Vidyaratna Sri R.S. Muniratnam, and dynamic vice chairman Sri R.S. Kishore, and for their support and encouragement to conduct this session, this faculty development program. My thanks to all the faculty members, especially all the uh, organizing team who arranged this faculty program in a very effective manner. My sincere thanks to all the faculty members who registered for this faculty development program, and hope at the end of the 5 days you will be gaining a lot of knowledge, and which will be helpful to you to apply during and after COVID situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
With
Now
this few words, I declare this faculty development program open. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I again request Dr. N. Gangadhar, HOD of ECE, to introduce today's resource person. Please, sir.
I take immense pleasure in introducing Professor Idamana Prasad, the resource person of the day. Professor Prasad is a professor at the Department of Chemistry, IIT Madras. He is also working as the head Teaching Learning Center at the IIT Madras, where a group of faculty from science and engineering departments has been actively participating in organizing various activities for improving the teaching learning process in the higher education sector of the country. Recently, MHRD has sanctioned a project amounting 4.5 crores for TLC to augment its activities. Professor Prasad's research work are in the areas of supramolecular self-assembly and photophysical aspects of small and assembled molecular systems. Before we could enhance ourselves with the thoughts of the great stalwart Professor Prasad, the participants are requested to follow the following instructions. Feedback link for processing the certificate will be provided at the end of the session, and only those who attend the FDP for all 5 days and fill the feedback form without fail are entitled for participation certificate. During the session, participants are welcome to post their queries in the question and answer box, which will be dealt by the resource person at the end of the session. On behalf of my colleagues and management, we once again wish you all the pleasant welcome for the first day FDP on the topic effectiveness of teaching learning. Have a pleasant day of enriched learning. Now I request Professor Prasad to start the session.
Thank you, sir, for the kind words of introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So at the outset, thank you for the opportunity. RMKC College initiating faculty development program during this pandemic time is appreciable, because instead of simply watching the situation, we are trying from our side whatever best we can do for teaching learning, enhancing the teaching learning process. Just for before we go to the talk, I just want to inform that recently there was a change in the headship of Teaching Learning Center IIT Madras. Right now, one of my colleagues from Electrical Engineering Department, Professor Shripad Karmakar, is currently heading the TLC. I was the head for the last 4 to 5 years, but I still work in the center as a core team member. Now, today's session is about effectiveness of teaching learning. So one of the things that the theories of learning says about effectiveness is, don't give a lecture continuously. So whether it is online or offline, continuous lecture is not considered as an effective way of teaching. So I am not planning to do that. Even though it is 1 hour and HOD mechanical engineering, I think EC suggested that question answer will be at the end. I prefer the other way. There will be in between small breaks, and then you can ask question, but we'll stick to the time. Exactly at 11, we will be stopping. Now with these few words, I will try to share the slides now. I want somebody to confirm that slides are seen so that I can start. 1 second, I'm sharing the screen now. Are you able to see the slides?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right. So the effectiveness of teaching learning, that is what the topic is. What do you mean by effectiveness? That is something that we should be in the same page. Effectiveness means when the purpose is served, then we say the process is effective, right? What is the purpose of teaching? The purpose of teaching is learning. So when we say effectiveness of the teaching or the teaching is effective, only condition is learning has to happen. Then we can say that effectiveness of teaching is, there is effectiveness of teaching. Not only simple learning, intended learning. What a teacher wants the students to learn, that has to happen to the extent what teacher designs. Then we say teaching is effective. There are three pillars that control this effectiveness of teaching. One is called what teacher wants the students to learn. This is called intended learning. There are terminologies in educational research. It is generally known as outcomes, learning outcome, course outcome, program outcome. There are different types of outcomes, but essentially it means it is the intended learning. Teacher wants the students to learn something. That is called intended learning. That, how much a teacher gets clarity on that, and how do you communicate that to the students? That is very important in the beginning. Second aspect that controls effectiveness of teaching is method of teaching. As I said, lecture is not a good method of teaching because when information keeps on coming to learners, the retention time, there's a limit. Over above information is coming means it is like putting your pot upside down and pouring water. Nothing goes inside. So method of teaching is important. And the third pillar is assessment. That means the teacher do the learning verification. The teachers do the learning verification, it is called assessment. These three are the main aspects which controls effectiveness of teaching learning. Let us look one by one. Suppose somebody asks you this question. Don't do anything now, but you can think about this question. Imagine a course that you are teaching. All of your teachers will be teaching some courses. Think about that course with the course number, syllabus, everything in your mind. Think about one expected learning. You can call it learning outcome or intended learning for this course. You can use your pen and paper or even in your mind. Imagine something that you planned, that this is the learning that has to happen. This exercise many college teachers are currently doing because of there are national agencies who does accreditation to every institute. So people are somewhat familiar, but there are a lot of confusion also. How to communicate the intended learning? As I said, intended learning communication to students is one of the initial steps in determining the effectiveness of teaching learning process. If you can do this process properly, there is hope. If you do mistake here, there is not even hope. After that, whatever you do, it depends upon this. So how to write a expectation, expected learning is the first step. When you write or design the outcomes, you should ask these two questions. These are the two questions that can act as criteria for designing outcome. Question number one, what should students know and be able to do as a result of your teaching, as a consequence of instruction? Question number two, how will students be able to think, or at what cognitive level will the students perform? Cognitive means thinking. So essentially the learning outcome statement, that means the intended learning of a teacher. When the teacher designs this intended learning, the intended learning should answer these two questions. The intended learning will tell what student is supposed to do as a result of teaching. So it is not about teaching, it's about learning, the intended learning. The statement must tell what student should be able to do as a result of teaching. Also, it should tell what cognitive level, what thinking level the student should be performing. So there are two aspects to the expectation. And these two aspects, as you can see in this slide, step 1, step 2. These are the steps for designing outcomes. Step 1 is, what is the student expected to be able to do? That should be very clear in your outcome statement. Step number 2, when they do the expected action, which level of thinking is involved? Now, as you can see in the above, in this same slide, some guidelines for designing the outcome is given. Every outcome statement, outcome is again intended learning. When you suggest that this is the intended learning in my course, in that outcome statement, there should be a verb describing an observable action from the student side. Because as you can see in the step 1, student is expected to do something. So when they do something, it should be an action. So every outcome statement must contain an action, a verb, which describes something which is observable. Why it has to be observable? If it is not observable, it cannot be measurable. So because of that simple reason, teacher has to measure the learning at some point. The action is expected to be observable. So if you can keep these 2 steps, that one step is what you want your students to do in the topic that you are teaching. And when they do this action, which level of thinking is involved? These 2 aspects the teacher should be knowing. When we say level of thinking, these are the different levels that is suggested generally. There are different types of levels of thinking. One method is using a taxonomy of learning. Taxonomy means classification. These are the levels. As you can see, there are 6 levels of thinking. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. All these 6 levels are important. The only way they are putting in a hierarchical model is for an average learner, as we go from lower to upper, the task becomes difficult as you climb the levels. So that means remember is going to be a relatively easy task than create something. That is uppermost level. So they arrange in a level of increasing difficulty. Let us quickly go through these levels because, as I said, to design the outcomes, levels are very important. Remember level is, suppose the teacher wants the student to remember something that he teaches. Then he says the cognitive load is in the remember level. Suppose the teacher wants the students to understand some concepts, comprehend some concepts. Then we say there is a level called understand. Suppose the teacher wants students to use some information. Then we say there is an apply level. Suppose the teacher wants the students to use the information in a very unfamiliar situation where the students need to figure it out, what exactly to be done. Then we say analytical thinking is targeted, so the level of thinking is analyzed. The top 2 levels, evaluate and create. Evaluation level is about judgment. How much capable is a student to make a judgment, a decision based on his or her hypothesis. Then we say he is good in evaluating things. The last level is creating something new, come up with a new thought or a new idea. So these are the levels of thinking. Now, as you can see on the left side, there are so many verbs. Student may be expected to write something, they may be expected to plan something, they may be expected to design something, they may be expected to calculate something. Teacher may want them to plot something, draw something, list something, correlate something, identify something. Teacher may have different expectations about the actions or the verbs that the student is supposed to do. So whenever they write, the question for the teacher is now, when they write something, are they writing by remembering? Or are they writing by analyzing? Or are they writing by applying? Any level they can write. Which level are you targeting? That is what your outcome statement must reveal. For example, students are planning something. Are they planning something by remembering? Or are they planning some after making it their own decision, evaluating the situation? How do they plan? They are calculating something. Are they calculating by simply using some equation? So that means they are applying some information and calculating. Then you are targeting apply level. Or are they calculate using analytical thinking? You have given the data, but they don't know exactly what is step 1, what is step 2, what is step 3. They have to do a lot of connection between the data so that they are analyzing things and then calculating. Are they doing simply by remembering from the textbook? Are they identifying something by just comprehending the concept, or are they identifying some after analyzing As you can see, any of these action verb that I listed on the left side can come in any level. Teacher job is basically to connect the verbs to the level, map between them. When they write, which level of thinking is involved? When they plan, which level of thinking is involved? When they design, which level of thinking is involved? So let us try to see. I want you to actually come up with your outcome. I want you to design an outcome for your course. That means there are two things. One is identify the observable thinking action and the corresponding level of thinking. Unless there are two things in the outcome statement is not complete. You can use your chat box. I will shortly stop the sharing screen option and we can go back to the chat box and let us hear how do you communicate your students about this is what I am expecting you to do, and when you do, this is what the level of thinking involved. Let's hear some example. I am looking at the chat box and then when I hear some responses, because it's very important for the teachers to design outcomes in a proper fashion. This is the first step in effectiveness of teaching. There are two things. One is what you want your students to do, and the second thing is when they do, which level of thinking is involved.
Sir, this is Bala Subramanian.
Okay.
Mr. Gopinath from Chennai. Examine the various macro and the micro environmental factors for strategic planning.
Okay, that is an outcome. Yes, so examine is an observable action word, but he also need to tell which level of thinking is involved when the student is examining something. Is it remember level, understand level? Is it mentioned?
No, it's not.
So every outcome statement, there will be two things. One is an action term. This is expected from the students to do. And the second thing is when they do this, there will be a corresponding level of thinking involved. So both has to come. In the bracket, you can mention the level of thinking.
Okay.
Any other example?
Mr. Aravindan from Madurai. Identify various leadership styles.
Okay.
To anticipate the consequence of each leadership style in the organization.
Very good. All actions are there, but level of thinking is missing.
Yes.
When they articulate something, are they articulating by remembering? Are they articulating by creatively? So these things teacher has to have some idea. That is where the design of outcome will happen. Because if it is in different levels, your teaching strategy will change and the preparation will change, everything will change. So that's why it's very important that which level of thinking is involved has to be known for the teacher. Any other response? Any other response has come? Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We have one more minute. We will see whether anybody is responding, because so far nobody has done both. That means an expectation and the level of thinking. So, I mean, in effectiveness of teaching, one important thing that every teacher should realize that effectiveness of teaching happens only when you do a lot of identification. That means we need to give constantly, the Stephen is writing, students should be able to design their own models and should be able to explain the design to other classmates. Yeah, fine, that is a good outcome. Only thing is the expected level of thinking is not mentioning. So in the bracket you need the level of thinking involved is. But just because we use the word design, that doesn't necessarily mean that the student is creatively thinking. There are some misunderstanding among teachers in such a way that they use the design and then automatically they think creative thinking is happening. Many designs can be done with apply level of thinking. When you use some protocols and design, that means the student is simply in the apply level, not in the create level. So the verbs that you use may not be in the it can be in any level. So Governor is saying perform computator behavior analysis. It's an understand level he is saying. So there can be a particular analysis called computator behavior analysis, and if the student is able to do after comprehending the concepts, the teacher believes that the student can do if they comprehend the concepts. Comprehend the concept means they get a conceptual idea what to do. If that information or that understanding is enough to perform the job, then the level of thinking is understanding. So only when a teacher who is subject expert can actually say that this level of thinking is involved. So look at the job and say that to do this job, this level of thinking is enough.
Sir, one more question.
Okay.
Mrs. Nageshwari from Madurai.
Okay.
Apply the stress function concept in polar coordinates and analyze stresses in cylinder and disk. Apply level.
Nice. So the only confusion is Madam used the two words. One is apply, one is analyze, and then finally we say the level is apply. So these things that can be confusion because there is a level called analyze, and we are using that term. So this can bring confusion. That's why normally we suggest don't use the level's name as action verbs. So instead of apply, we need to do what kind of apply. Is it like using some equations for the polar coordinates? Then apply you can use the word use. Another analyze. What kind of analysis? Is it correlation? It is comparing? Is it identifying? So there can be many thought processes. So when you say the words that you are expecting, you need to pinpoint what exactly you are expecting. Simply using apply or analyze, that's an embedded word. Lot of cognitive thought processes can happen in apply level. Like that, lot of thought processes can happen in analyze level. Which thought process are you looking for? Your outcome statement must communicate that part. So Stephen is writing, students should be able to synthesize their learning and create a new model and should be able to explain their design approach to their classmates. So again, I think the level is, so there are 6 levels we discussed. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate and create. When the students do some actions, teacher should be able to pinpoint which level of thinking is involved for these actions. One more, and then we'll stop. Yeah.
One more small comment, Prasad. I am Dr. Chokalingam, cardiologist.
Yes.
I have been teaching for the last 52 years.
Okay.
The best way of learning is teaching itself.
That is true. So tell that expectation to students.
Another comment is, whatever thing you learn, you must see that it is converted in such a way, it must go to the hand of the common people in the society and it must be beneficial to them. Otherwise, whatever thing you are going to learn and teach, it will be of no use. And see that anything you are doing that it must teach the answer to society.
I agree that, but there are, so for example, there are a large number of courses in the curriculum which may be direct application to the society may or may not be there, but value addition aspect, as you said, I completely agree, there should be some benefit to the society. But a course-based education has another responsibility that the course content has to be learned. Which part of the life they use it is a different aspect. I agree. Okay. Actually, sir, is there any other comment?
Dr. Vipin from Nagarkoil.
Okay.
Understand the concepts of metal casting.
I see. Okay. Which level is assigning level?
Level 2, level 2.
Level 2. Is use the word understand, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think at this point, I will go back to the slide because this is the right time. We need to share the slides. Are you able to? Okay, 1 second. Share the screen. When teachers use the word understand for expecting the expected, sharing the expectation. Okay. So as I said, yeah, we need to have an observable action and a corresponding level. So many of the input, there was observable action terms, but corresponding levels of thinking were missing. So teachers, I request you to think corresponding level of thinking. Another one, just now I heard is understand. We normally suggest to avoid the word understand because understand is not an observable action word. Remember the condition or the criteria for outcome design. It must contain a verb which is observable. Understand, unfortunately, is not an observable action because nothing observable will happen when somebody understands. Understand is a phenomena happening internally. After understanding, you want them to do something. When they do only, you can figure it out whether they understood or not. So always focus on what you expect them to do, not what happens in their mind. As a result of recognizing something in their mind, you expect them to do something. What is that do part? So avoid the word understand. It is a level of thinking. You should always look for, as I write on the left side, something which is very concrete, so that another person can see that, observe that. Okay? Alright. Yeah, last one.
Shakti Ganta from Mumbai. How to link Bloom's taxonomy to question paper creation?
It is very easy because in the question paper, what you are actually checking is your outcomes, whether the students are reaching the outcomes or not. So in the outcomes itself, we are telling that this is the corresponding level. So when they calculate, for example, students should be able to calculate something and the level is applied. So there should be a question in the question paper to check whether they are able to calculate in the apply. So that way you can always connect your question to the level of thinking because in the outcome itself we are connecting the levels. So you should not do it only for the questions. In the beginning itself, you need to have an idea, these are the levels of thinking targeted. So that there can be corresponding questions in the question paper.
One last question, sir.
Okay.
Dr. K.M. Mohan. Why synthesis level of thinking is missing in White's taxonomy?
It's not missing, synthesis is creating. So they just change the words. In the revised taxonomy, they use another vocabulary, but synthesis is called create level now. The level is not missing. Okay. Now we are going to the next pillar called method of teaching. So first thing is for effectiveness of teaching learning, there are three aspects. One is share the intended learning. This is very, very important. Unless you adapt to this method, your next two steps will not be perfect. Once you are adapted to this sharing your outcomes properly, next thing is method of teaching. And the slides, as you can see, there are so many methods of teaching. Unfortunately, none of them are practiced in a thorough fashion in academy. Right now, also 90% of classes are done by lecture. This is called research-based instructional strategies, RBIS. So many methods. This is not exhaustive anyway. We may not be able to discuss all of them, and there is no point in just discussing like that. What teachers need is training how to actually implement these things. But I just want to tell you that there are so many methods of teaching, and it depends upon what is your intended learning, you can choose a method. And surprisingly, you may be seeing that lecture is not listed as an RBIS. Because there are so many studies which say that lecture is not a very effective method of teaching. I'm going to skip this part because this essentially is trying to justify why do we need to use research-based instructional strategies. There are so many studies. I can share the slides with you, but all these studies done across the globe suggest that RBIS is better than conventional teaching. So I'll just skip this study part. But this is a summary of all the study. The primary takeaway from research on this RBIS or active learning is that students' learning success depends much less on what teachers do than what teachers ask their students to do. So the essential aspect of method of teaching is there should be something that you keep asking your students to do, not simply telling them. If you keep on telling them, it is not an effective teaching. So the question is that you have targeted some of the levels. Does your teaching strategy involves learner-centered activities matching with the level targeted? My outcomes or my expectation at the grade level. So then, in your teaching, are they creating something in every class? If not, your target is missed. You expect them to analyze. So that means in every class, they should be analyzing. Students should be analyzing, not you. So teachers' role is make sure that students think in that level. And that strategy has to be incorporated in the teaching method. One method we are discussing is called flipped method. We are comparing. In this slide, what you are seeing is how a traditional approach is different from a flipped approach. In traditional classroom, before they come to the first class, what students do? They do nothing. They simply come to the class. But in flipped approach, before coming to the class, they are introduced either to a video or to a book chapter or to a reading article. Some content is provided a priori. So they have to go through the content and then come to the class. That is one feature of flipped class. During the class, what happens in the conventional case? Teacher discusses, not even discuss. Teacher tells the important aspect. Teacher explains. That is the conventional method. In the flipped method, teacher never explains. Teacher asks the students to do something. They give some exercise.
Okay.
When students do
computer audio. Okay, now. Purila. Hello? Hello? சொல்லுங்க. ஆமாம் அவர் மீட் ஸ்ட்ரக் ஆகிடுச்சு. வாய்ஸ் கேட்கல. அவர் வாய்ஸ் கேட்கல. இல்லை அவர் இதில் கூகுள் மீட்லேயே ஸ்ட்ரக் ஆகிடுச்சுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஆமாம் அது எப்படி பண்ணுறது? கான்டாக்ட் பண்ணுறது அவரை செக் பண்ணு.
They can also do some exercise even after leaving the class. We'll take another break. I want you to think about an activity that you can ask when the student, suppose you are doing a flipped class.
Hello.
Okay, think about a lecture topic and imagine that you are doing a flipped class. That means you give the content, your lecture itself, you recorded and gave the students in advance. They watch and come to the class. When they come to the class, you need to ask them a question. You have to ask them to do this. What kind of activity are you planning? Now you can share your ideas to the chat box. HOD sir, if comments comes, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Govindaraj from Vellore. Maybe a group discussion on a particular topic?
Govindaraj, that's a good idea, but when we say this group discussion, the task is not clear. So in this kind of flipped class activity, one important aspect is how much clarity you can give to the activity. So in the group discussion, what do you want them to do? That has to come. So there is an input from Loganathan, crossword puzzle. That can be an activity. You can have the match the following or crossword puzzle, but there should be a definite activity. Conducting a quiz on the topic. That's another input I am getting. Yeah, that is another possibility. You can conduct a quiz.
This is Shanti from Bangalore. Role play.
Yes, the only issue with the role play is good in the sense that it gives you some experiential learning format. But only those students who are in the role play are experiencing it. Others are simply watching. So there is a drawback for role play. Usually the activities are for all the students because you want them to have the experience of remembering, understanding, analyzing for across the whole class. So role play has a limited success. Other thing.
Mr. Sendil Kumar from Tirthani. A game.
Sorry?
Game.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are all only the method, but if I'm expecting for some teachers describing how do they actually tell the student, this is what you have to do. Because a lot more thing is there, the way that you tell. Instruction should be very clear. Otherwise, what happened is that time will be lapsed. Time will be underutilized. So when teachers say that this is what you do in a flipped class, the instruction should be very crystal clear. QC is only a method or a puzzle is a method, but you can bring your subject also into the activity. Even though I'm not a subject expert of every subject, from reading the sentence, I can figure it out whether the instruction is clear or not. So Loganathan is writing, giving result and asking to infer from that. Yeah, so you can give an observation and ask them to infer. That can be a good activity. We'll take one more example.
Vinod Kumar from Delhi.
Okay.
Giving some models and asking them to assemble them.
Only problem maybe is suppose there are class 60 students, they may have to work in a group or something. Otherwise, number of models. But that's a good thing, hands-on experience. You can ask them, or it's a software-based thing. They need to have a system for everybody, or for a group. But you can ask them to assemble something. That's a good exercise. So like that, we need to teach us the effectiveness of teaching. I'm telling you, if the learning has to happen according to the way you think it has to happen, this method of teaching is very important. And in the method of teaching, whichever method you take, the question is, are you giving some work to the learners? That is very important. Instead, if you keep on giving information, that's not going to be very effective. That is why lecture is not given as a top priority in that method of teaching. You can provide information, but unless the information is processed, information is not going to be useful. How do they get processed? When you ask the students to do something. All right.
I am taking subject entrepreneurial development.
Okay.
I ask the students to write about few points how to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What the finance required, where you go for the financial arrangements like that.
Yeah. So write the steps to become entrepreneur. That can be a good exercise. Identify a source of finance. So we need to clearly tell what is the task so that it will directly hit their brain and then it starts working. The idea of cognitive thinking is teachers should hit their brains. Hit means not literally, but you need to give some work to them so that the brain starts working. Then only we can say effectiveness of teaching is playing. Okay, now we go back to the slides again. So we have touched upon two aspects of effectiveness of teaching. One is the sharing the intended learning. Another one is method of teaching. In method of teaching, one aspect that we told is flipped class. Couple of things about flipped class is the content that you are providing, either in terms of videos or articles, it should be of short duration.
Don't give a 2 hour of video and ask them to watch and come. Nobody will watch and come. Make it short and ask them to watch it and come. You can give many videos, but short. And during the online classes, like the flipped class, online or offline, you need to vary the activities. Sometimes you can ask multiple choice questions, sometimes problem solving, sometimes asking them the reason or explain concepts. You need to vary the activities, but very important that you should be focusing on the activities in the class. There are FAQs on flipped class. Can I cover the same content using a flipped class? Yes. Most teachers cover more content and students learn better. How will students respond? Well, sometimes students may not be familiar about this methodology, so there may be an initial resistance, but you can figure it out how to manage it as a content expert. Can I use this format in large class? Answer is yes. Can I use this format in mathematically oriented course? The answer is yes, because mathematics is a subject that people learn by doing it. So in a flipped class, when they do it again and again, they have a better grasp of mathematics. And one more methodology we'll mention is called PBL, problem-based learning or project-based learning. It is also known as, in some other context, inquiry-based learning or challenge-based learning. Essentially, all these names mean the same thing. The aspect of a PBL is written here in 4 points. First point, students are presented with a complex, ill-structured problem. Now, when they come to the first class, teacher is not giving any lecture, but instead teacher is giving a ill-structured problem. I want you to underline the word ill-structured, because this is not the problem that you see in the backside of each book chapter. Those problems are structured problems. When we say ill-structured problem, it means it's an open-ended problem. The solution is not very evident how to do, how to proceed also. Such a problem you need to provide. What students do, they work to define the problem and to identify what they know that is relevant to the problem. They also identify what they need to know and how they will learn it. So these are the things that learning on us is with the student now. They have to figure it out. You are there as a teacher, but you only guide them. Students engage in learning independently and then discuss among themselves, either online or offline. I'm putting online because of the current situation, to share learning and to use their existing and new knowledge to formulate solutions. They assess the quality of their own proposed solutions and decide what additional learning is needed to select and refine their solution. A lot of learning responsibility is shifted to the learners in this exercise. So they have to figure it out, either individually or group, that what they are doing is actually leading them to the right answer or a probably right answer. They don't know whether it's the right answer. Now, their cycle of discussion repeated until they arrive at an acceptable solution, which they present online in a written or an oral form to the teacher, and teacher provide feedback. This has to be repeated. This kind of a teaching method is called PBL. One suggestion from me is that if you are just starting to use methodology of teaching methods, probably PBL is going to be difficult at this point. I want you to use the flipped class kind of class first, then come to the PBL, because starting directly PBL is going to be an issue, mainly because first you need to design an ill-structured problem. Why this method is very popular? Because, see, as you can see in this slide, there is content, there is process. Content is on the y-axis, process is on the x-axis. Content means the subject that you are teaching, whatever that data. Process is when they do this exercise, how quickly they process the data. So there are 4 quadrants. When they come to your class, they are actually unengaged. That means they have low content and low processing ability. But when they leave your course, you want them to be experts. That means high content and high processing ability. The question is, how do you take from the unengaged box quadrant to experts quadrant? Either go up and turn right, or go right and then turn up. These are the 2 methods, as you can see in the next slide, whether you need to emphasize on the content first or whether you need to emphasize on the process first. Either way, you can reach the expert column. The conventional teaching method focuses on content pushing. You first push the content, then later in their life, they will start processing it. But methodology teaching say that the other method is better, process emphasize. That is why flipped class or PBL, all these methods, we are focusing on the processing ability of the learner. When they become adept to the processing ability, they take content from wherever it is needed. There is no dearth for content. We are living in a world where there is no dearth for content. So teachers should not focus on content. Teachers should see how the students are actually processing the content. That is the effectiveness of learning. So I will quickly go through this slide because these are 10 worst teaching mistakes that all of us do. First mistake is when you ask a question in the class, you look for a volunteer whose hand is raising. Bad practice, because number of volunteers in a class will be always fixed. Others won't even listening to your question. So don't do this habit. You ask question, that's a good method, but you pick up the person to answer. Second mistake, call on students cold, which means you ask a question and then you demand the answer immediately. That is a bad practice. You should provide some time for them to process it. Turn classes into PowerPoint shows, non-stop PPT presentation. Bad idea. Fail to provide variety in teaching. Have students work in groups with no individual accountability. I have a group of 10 students, but I don't know who is doing what. Bad practice. Fail to demonstrate relevance. Why am I learning this course? What is the relevance? That has to be demonstrated. Give tests that are too long. After 3-4 weeks, give a 3-hour test versus every week there is a half-an-hour test. Every week half-an-hour test is much better than after 4 weeks 3-hour test. Get stuck in a rut, which means you keep on doing the same thing again and again. You need to take new courses to get out of that rut. Teach without clear learning outcomes. Without the intended learning, without the clarity on the intended learning, teaching cannot be effective. Last but not least, disrespect students. That's a very bad teaching method. You need to respect the students so that they will respect you back. The third component, we have 6 minutes to go. The third pillar of which controls the effectiveness of teaching learning is called assessment. Assessment, there are 2 types of assessment. One is called formative assessment, another one is called summative assessment. Summative assessment is also known as evaluation. Formative assessment means assessment happening in the formative hours. Suppose when you teach a class, while the teaching happening, you verify, you assess the learning. That is called formative assessment. Summative assessment is after the class is over, after the semester is over, or after the unit 1 or module 1 is over, you give a test paper and then students will get some mark, 80 out of 100, 20 out of 100, or some grade, A grade, B grade, C grade. That means you are actually evaluating the learning. Give a number or a letter grade. That kind of a assessment is called summative assessment. And which one is going to be more effective? Suppose somebody asks formative or summative for the student. Both are important, but formative assessment is more valuable for a learner because while they learn something, they are getting the feedback from the teacher. The assessment of learning is done by the teacher and provided to the student. So formative assessment techniques have to be incorporated in your class for effectiveness of teaching. That's what the point I want to make sure. Just keep on teaching is not good. Stop the teaching, verify learning is happening or not, time to time. As many number of times if you can do the formative assessment techniques, better will be the learning. And remember, you are assessing only the outcome design, not something else. So when your outcome is that students should be able to calculate something, you assess whether they're able to calculate or not. So only when during the outcome or assess something, don't change the outcome. You have predetermined the outcome in the beginning, only that outcome you verify. So there should be something called an assessment plan. Teachers should have an assessment plan. That means method through which you are planning to conduct the assessment. You can create a rubric. Rubric means a table format where you say that this is one learning outcome. How am I planning to assess it? You describe that and conduct it. The details can be given in that table. So that's called a rubric format. every outcome, how are you planning to assess, what way you are going to measure it, and what could be the decision of after the measurement. All those things you can put it in a rubric format. So every teacher should have an assessment plan. If your assessment plan is very good, your effectiveness of teaching will be very good. And every time when you do the formative assessment, you should give a feedback, a descriptive feedback to learners regarding where they stand with respect to the outcomes. I expect you to do this, but now I have seen your performance. You are standing here with respect to that outcome. So this information will greatly help them to improve their performance. The challenges are, so many challenges are there when you come to the online platform for assessment, because online monitoring is not very feasible in our country because of the network issues. And also, if suppose you want to make an exam, computer-based exam, then right now, computer can handle only MCQ type questions. Paragraph type, descriptive type answers, computer cannot monitor or evaluate. So there are limitations in assessment in online platforms. Right now, what we can do is we can target higher learning skills and then ask them open-ended questions. It is called open book exam. Some of you are familiar probably. You ask a question, ask them to write it using their textbook. That textbook, they can open it and then take their own time. But so there is no problem. You can ask the questions online. They can submit online. After reading all the books, go through their books, but there is no answer directly in the book. That kind of questions are called open-ended questions. Or if the class number is very small, you can do the Viva. So summary part is, there are 3 pillars we discussed for effectiveness of teaching. One is, how do you share your intended learning? Very important. And how do you choose what method of teaching is needed to reach that expectation? And how constantly you verify the assessment. So I'll stop now. There is 1 minute. We can take the question answer.
Sir?
Yeah.
P. Satyanarayanan from Vailtech Engineering College.
Okay.
Is there any evidence why students with a higher social economic background have an average better learning outcome?
Please read it again. How? Is there any evidence?
Is there any evidence why students with a higher social economic background have on average better learning outcome?
Because they are more prepared. Their learning preparedness is high. When they come from a better social economic background, their learning preparedness is high. So their outcome will be always high. So this terminology, sometimes people use slow learner. I differ. There is nothing like slow learner. It is high preparedness, low preparedness. So it depends upon somebody's learning capability, depends upon how much they are prepared to learn that. That means how much background information they have to learn a particular stuff. So because they are coming from a better environment, they are more prepared. That's all.
Kuladeep from Sri Vaidyanathan Engineering College, Tirupati. What is the maximum time a facilitator can teach in a flipped class?
Maximum time?
Yes.
So as long as, see, in the flipped class format, the main aspect is that teacher is giving a question and collecting answer from them. So there will be a lot of breaking session or breaks, not like a continuous lecture. So 90 minutes of session is very beautiful for a flipped class.
Manisha from Innocent Heart School. What about diagnostic assessment?
You can do it as a method of teaching. That's a good method of teaching. You can make a diagnostic quizzes also. You ask them to prepare questions, diagnostic quiz questions. That can be a method that can be used. See, which method you use largely depends upon what you want them to learn. So that's why the intended learning comes first. Suppose this is what you want them to learn, you can choose an appropriate method of teaching. Unless you get a clarity on that, then you can say for this learning, whether diagnostic questions are good or not.
Madam Chitra from Savita Engineering College. Are there any free tools to embed questions during flipped class videos?
IIT Bombay has a tool. It is called Bodhi Tree. So you can Google it. I think they are helping teachers also. I'm not very sure, but please check IIT Bombay website, Bodhi Tree.
Prabhu from Pratyuksha Engineering College. This is a long question.
Okay.
During all semester beginning, we deliver the session to the students with our own developed course outcomes. But in students' point of view, they are expecting how this subject is interlinked with our life skills and how it matches with the industrial requirements. Every 50-minute session will not be effective. I am asking you how we can approach the slow learners to learn the 50-minute session effectively.
Yeah, I think that is what we were trying to discuss during the session also. Don't give a 50 minutes lecture in the class, first point. That will be very ineffective way of teaching, whether it is slow learner or a fast learner. The idea is that you need to prepare that learner to your expectation. So how do we prepare the learner? They need to get learning skill. How do people get skill? Practice. So the effective way of teaching is essentially you create opportunity for the learners in your class to work on something, use their brain. Listening, when you listen to somebody, your brain input or the way that you use the brain is very less. See, is not receiving. Learning is all about retrieving. Please remember this. Learning is all about retrieving things. Something that comes to their brain, they have to take it out after processing. Effective. You should focus.
Will the industrial visit and industrial training will be effective for learning outcome?
Depends upon the outcome. Suppose the outcome is create something, industry visit is not going to give much input there because they're just observing things there. Very, very indirectly they'll be doing some effect. But suppose your outcome is understand something, how to prepare something, then obviously, yeah, industry visit is very useful because they will get a direct view how this is synthesized, how this is prepared. So depends upon your outcome, industry visit can be a good method of teaching.
Mr. Gopinath from Chennai.
Okay.
Can you quote some examples of innovative teaching?
Innovative teaching, I have so many methods. I show you that slide where I think there are 10, 12 methods of teaching. PBL is very innovative teaching, what we discussed briefly. And flipped class is also another innovative teaching method. There are methods called POGIL, process-oriented guided inquiry-based learning. There is another way. There is something called workshop learning. There is called community service. So there are large number of learning methodologies or teaching methodologies. But a workshop of 1 hour, there are limitations to discuss everything. But if you are interested, you can contact me. We can discuss.
Mr. Mohan Raj from Bangalore. Will the chalk and talk type of teaching will be ineffective over a period of time?
Again, depends upon what you want them to learn. So there are things where chalk and talk works very good. So the intended learning is more important. Some intended learning, chalk and talk is very good. For some other intended learning, PowerPoint is good. Some other intended learning, computer is good. So which tool you use depends upon what you want them to learn.
Parasuram, in analysis subjects, how should we prepare question paper and how to cover theory part in question paper?
For analysis level.
Analytical subjects.
Analytical subject. Yeah, subject can be analytical or non-analytical. But the question is, if you want to prepare the questions, you should have a clear learning outcome. If you have a learning outcome very clear, question is embedded in it. For example, a learning outcome is student should be able to calculate force constant. What is the question? Calculate force constant. So in every learning outcome statement, at some point you will realize that every learning outcome statement, there is a question embedded in it. Now teachers have to realize that when they do this question, this level of thinking is targeted, whether it is analytical thinking is required or remembering skill is required. Based on that, you decide when I ask this calculation, this level of thinking is required. And in an overall curriculum, see that all the thinking levels are touched upon. due by various courses. There is no condition that this course has to touch upon all the 6 levels or this course has to touch upon only one level, nothing like that. In an overall curriculum, if curriculum committee looks in the whole courses offered in a college, almost all the levels should be touched upon so that comprehensive learning happens.
Anandi Bhaskaran from Kalpakkam. Can we have different assessment techniques as the students' level differ in each class?
No, students' level will be different in every class. We are assessing our course outcomes. So course outcome depends upon course, not on students' ability. You may get always different types of students. We cannot change the outcome based on the input of students' ability. Students' ability will be always a distribution. What you do is you decide outcome for the course, you assess that outcome and see how many students are able to reach that. And the entire semester, you try to prepare as many students as possible to reach the outcome. But don't do the assessment based on their abilities. That will reduce the quality of the course.
Dennis Matthew from Chennai Institute of Technology. How do we conduct an effective open book test?
Open books test means the question, there should not be one answer. So you ask a question, which is generally known as open-ended question. There can be multiple answers. They become creative and come up with the possible solutions. They can look at the problem from different angles. And there can be multiple answers. All we are trying to verify that they are thinking creatively, logically correct, and their arguments are correct. But there may be more than one type of answers. So that kind of thing is called open-ended question.
Professor Hema from Dayananda Sagar College of Engineering. What would be the best teaching technique when too many equations are involved in the course?
So there is a method called scaffolding, which means suppose derivation. There are so many equations and you want them to derive something. Teacher can derive 2-3 equations on the board and then write another, for example, 6th step or 7th step. In between the steps, you ask the students to derive. So when you do that kind of an approach, it's called scaffolding method, they will be able to derive it, these equations. And they will also see how these equations are connected. But if teacher is deriving the entire equation on the board and students are simply watching, it's a bad method.
Explain PBL method. Mohan from Gujarat.
PBL is essentially teacher provide a problem. It's problem-based learning. No? So this problem doesn't have a single answer. It's an embedded question. The student need to figure it out what the question itself, that will take 2-3 weeks. That means they have to break down the question to small questions and find out the answers, integrate the answer to find out. It will be an open-ended question. So such a kind of question design depends upon your subject expertise. You cannot use standard questions for PBL. But PBL is very effective because students start thinking a lot to answer that question and their learning become more effective.
If subject is numerical based, how we can decide the BTL?
How we can determine the
BTL?
What is BTL?
Yes, not expanded.
Okay. Yeah, probably we need to.
We'll go to the next question.
Yeah.
Dr. Jyoti Jain from Bangalore. What could be the different methods of assessment in an online lecture?
Yeah, so an online lecture, one method I already shown that you stop the lecture in between and then verify something is actually getting into learner's brain. That is very important. This is called formative assessment technique. Another way is 101. You can call the participant's name and then request them to respond. You ask a question. Suppose you are teaching a class of 50 students. Your participant list will be there on the screen. You pause in between, call somebody's name and ask the question. Ask a question, pose a question. And another way is MCQ type questions. We can ask them to choose something. Match the following can be given in the screen. But response should be taken very frequently. That is the most important thing.
how to improve or lift the low preparedness students in this outcome-based learning among high preparedness students group?
Mix them together and ask a common question, and the answer should be given by the low prepared student. The high prepared student will help him. So there is something called peer learning that is more effective than a teacher-student learning. So when they work in one team, you should make sure that the team is functional. Then if it is functional team, then the taking between the students will be much more effective, and the low prepared students will gain a lot more. That is what research studies have shown.
Sir, you have to enable your videos.
Yeah.
So one last question, sir. Aruna Devi from Chennai, online assessment versus in-class assignment. Please tell us how the quality of online assessment can be validated.
Online assessment has challenges compared to in-class assessment. In-class assessment is much better because you have the personal touch, which is gone in online assessment. But as far as cognitive learning is concerned, suppose you want them to, the kind of 6 levels that we targeted, those learning verification can be done online. There is no problem. But there are other types of learning that comes as a result of in-person interaction between a teacher, between the peers. That will be missing in online. So assessment of learning in other domains will have difficulties, but cognitive domain, the domain that we discussed today, remember, understand, apply, analyze, those learning verification can be done online also. Especially if the class size is less, it can be done.
So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
It was a very wonderful session. We had a very clear idea of how to write the learning outcomes. A lot of questions were posted by the people who have participated. And you have answered all the questions. I think everyone would have understood by this time the importance of learning outcome and the effectiveness of teaching.
Thank you.
I would like to conclude by presenting my vote of thanks for the day. The roots of all goodness lie in the soil of appreciation of goodness. A pleasant morning to our most valued guest, Dr. Yadamanna Prasad, Head Teaching and Learning Center, IIT Madras, and my most beloved participants of this first day faculty development program. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this seminar such a resounding success. I would like to thank our distinguished speaker, Dr. Yadamanna Prasad, for making excellent presentation and making this seminar interesting and meaningful. The session on effectiveness of teaching learning was simply amazing, covering the meaning, the importance, the viability, the essentialities of knowing the whatabouts and the benefits of effectiveness of teaching learning. The deliberation on effectiveness of teaching learning in this COVID-19 pandemic period was very beneficial. I wholeheartedly extend my gratitude to our honorable management and our respected principal for providing such a wonderful encouragement and support in knowledge dissemination. I also would like to congratulate our team of coordinators and technical support, because events like this dimension cannot happen overnight. It involves a lot of efforts with limitless time and never-ending dedication in arranging a fabulous session like this and making it happen as expected. I would like to extend my profound gratitude to all the participants for paying your valuable attention for learning in midst of lots of disturbances and panic around due to COVID-19 spread, and also suggesting with your opinions in the form of questions. I hope the time spent is worth spent for learning the importance of new horizons to reach in the days to come. Stay home and stay safe. Thank you all for making this event successful with your contribution. Meet you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I thank HOD of Mechanical Engineering, Dr. L. Balasubramaniam, for being the moderator. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Once again, I thank all the participants. Now I remind once again that the feedback link is posted in Telegram group and WhatsApp group. Tomorrow's session is about e-learning by Dr. G. Janaki, Senior Project Officer, Teaching Learning Center, IIT Madras. Thank you all once again. So meet you all tomorrow. Stay safe. Thank you.